Hello and welcome again. Thank you for joining me. I'm really actually enjoying these, so I hope you guys are as well. Today I wanted to go through lists and pseudo elements. So I'm going to try and make this quick as well so that we don't spend too much time looking at code, but I do want to show you some things. So back at CodePen, if you've noticed, CodePen's a really cool place where you can just write code and it'll give you a URL when you're done. I'm logged in, so it's got, I can save this and gives me a little URL as well, which is what I can then share with you guys. But anyway, we'll talk about CodePen another day. Focus, lists and pseudo elements. All right, so don't need JavaScript, so I'm just going to hide that. But we do need HTML, we do need CSS. I wanted to show you a very basic kind of concept for a list. So if we have a list, I might say I've got milk and eggs and bread, right? So there it is, milk, eggs, bread. But it doesn't really appear like a list because HTML doesn't understand that. So what we have to do instead is we say, well, HTML, I have, an ordered list, so an OL, an ordered list, and I have a list item, which is this li, and I have milk, and then I'm done with this list item of milk. Then I'm going to have another list item, which is going to be eggs, and then I'm going to have another list item, which is my bread. And so when we put all of this stuff together, we then tell HTML, hey, I've got this ordered list which has 3 items, which is milk, eggs, and bread. And because it's an OL, it's an ordered list, HTML down here will give me these numbers, 1, 2, 3. If I was to change my mind and make this a UL, and then change the bottom one as well to a UL, HTML will go, oh, well, that's an unordered list, which basically is a bullet point list, and that's what we have instead. So grab these things, milk, eggs, bread. They don't have any importance one from the other, so they're all considered equal. So therefore, it's an unordered list because it doesn't really matter. I'm going to go back to ordered list, meaning the most important thing I have to buy is milk. The next thing is eggs. The next thing is bread. So those are the 3 things that we kind of look at. I'm going to get rid of this at the top so that we have less stuff to look at. And over to CSS we go. Now, if I want to style basically something around the OL, I could say, look, OL, background, color, remember American spelling for color, yellow. And so there we have the whole OL is now yellow. If I was to change the OL to an LI, it still is all yellow, but notice that the 1, 2, and 3 are no longer included in that. So the difference between an OL, which goes all the way to the left, and an LI is that the list item is only a subset of the OL. And this is where a funny thing of pseudo-classes comes in. So pseudo-classes say that I can find a subset of a particular item. So if we had a carton of eggs, a subset of the carton of eggs would be the individual eggs. So in this case, we have 3 list items. So I'm going to grab one of them. I'm going to say env, whatever it is, env, what is it, first class number. We go over to the pseudo classes. We go W3 schools and we go, I want a pseudo class that actually is something that I can select as an individual item. I wonder what that is. I remember it was something to do with env. What could it be? What could it be? Oh, there it is. It's env child, and in brackets I put the number. And the usage of it is on the right. So p colon env child 2. And this tells me that it selects every p element that's the second child of its parent. So we take that back to here and go, so that means I have to put env child and in brackets number 2. This will just highlight this middle one for me. And that means that I can also, say 1, and I can also say 3. But it gives you the ability to make a specific rule that usually is around the first item or the last. So therefore they're a little bit easier as pseudo classes because you can just say first child, or you can change first to be last child. And just to prove that, if I wanted to add, I don't know, tomato into the list, you can still see that still highlights the last item. Whereas if I was doing nth child 3, when I added the tomato, what would happen is it would get highlighted instead of the bread. And I'll just demonstrate that by taking away tomato. And then you can see now the bread's highlighted. So nth child is cool, but it's fixed because you fix it at a specific item. If you get rid of the bread, what happens then is nothing's highlighted because you don't have a third. And that's where the flexibility of last child, without little brackets behind it, becomes really useful, because then whatever the last thing is always going to be highlighted in the list. So those are kind of cool things that you can do with HTML. So HTML lets you make the list, and then CSS allows you to put a specific kind of class on it or a specific kind of styling on it. So what I mean, I'm going to wrap up here, but the main idea around this is that you can select individual things, you can select a group of things. One other thing to kind of explore is like, where is this padding coming from? If we mix this together with what we looked at previously with inspect element, you'll see that this milk element in the whole kind of HTML does not have any padding or margins. Remember, you can explore the rules in the computed. If you go to computed, you'll see this pretty picture. But if you click on OL, you'll see that it has a 40 padding on the left and a 16 margin on the top and the bottom. It also demonstrates that for you in here. So when you roll over the OLs and the LIs, it shows you that purple on the left where the numbers are. That shows you that we've actually got this padding on the left of it. And then we have the yellow, which is the margin, which is up the top. And that means that if you wanted to change it, you could go in here and say, actually, I've changed my mind. I want my padding to be 0, and I want my margin to be 0. And that would force this to actually go and have 0 margins and 0 padding. Now you might say, well, it still has some margin and some padding. Yeah, but that's on the body. So if you click on the body, you'll see the body has an 8 pixel margin. So again, you'd have to go to the body tag, which we haven't even defined, but every page has it. And we could say margin is 0 as well. And that would make them go up against the very, very edge, which might not be what you want. So those are things that you can kind of explore when you've created this. You could change the padding here. We can make it like 80 pixels. We could make the margin 12 pixels. You can do little things like that around the OL. But because I made the padding that much, we had to scroll down to see it. And that's why initially the OL has a padding left only, so that the padding at the top and bottom doesn't exist. But then you can see the purple is much larger, and because I put the margin at 12, there's an additional margin on the left of the purple, which is basically that 12 pixels on the margin, because by default the margin is only at the top, and also there's a margin at the bottom. But this is more recap stuff, so I'll kind of wrap it up here. Hopefully you get an idea that lists and pseudo elements are cool, and then you can actually do more about positioning and placing these elements if you just explore where they are and what they do, and just mess around with it that way. So I'll save this. I'll probably take this out. Oh no, I'll keep it in. But I'll break it down onto a few lines so you can see them all separated out. And that way you can see that we've got padding, margins, all of them all separate. And then li here, we could do another one of these. I'm going to be lazy, I'm just going to copy it. This will be first child, and background's going to be, let's just make it red. So you'll have milk, eggs, and bread. And then it doesn't matter if you go ahead here and you add something like water. I'm going to buy a bottle of water or something, right? Boom, water's going to get highlighted first, because that's using the first child, which is different to that nth child thing, which is specific around items and things. All right, hope you enjoyed. Let me know in the comments if you kind of have any questions around this stuff. Otherwise, just practice it, make yourself a list and see if you can see it, and codepen's a good place to just mess around and do that stuff in. So I'll just save this so we get a URL as well for that. But what we'll do as we kind of go on is we'll just practice more of these things until they make sense. List are fundamentally what we're going to use to make menus, and menus We'll do more stuff with them when we get back to that. So yeah, thanks for checking it out, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.